When the phone rang at 6:30 on a Sunday morning, just hours after I had watched my only daughter drive away in a vintage Rolls-Royce with her new husband, I knew it wasn't good news. Good news waits until brunch. Bad news calls you while the sun is still coming up. I was lying in my suite at the Vineyard Estate, exhausted but happy. I had just spent a year planning the perfect wedding. I had spent $200,000 to ensure my daughter, Claire, had the fairy tale she deserved. I thought I had given her a prince. His name was Richard. He was charming, he was a lawyer, and he looked at her like she was the only woman in the world, or so I thought. When I answered the phone, it was Henri, the owner of the venue. He is an old friend. He didn't say good morning, he didn't ask how I slept. He simply said, "Madeline, you need to come to the security office alone. Do not wake Claire, do not wake Richard. Just come." I put on my coat over my silk pajamas and walked across the cold, misty grounds. I thought maybe there was a billing issue, maybe a guest had broken something. But when Henri turned the monitor around, I didn't see a broken vase. I saw my new son-in-law, and I saw my daughter's maid of honor. They were in the alley behind the kitchen, surrounded by garbage bins, and they were doing things that no loyal husband and best friend should ever do. I watched the video in silence. My heart didn't break, it hardened into stone. I had two choices. I could wake my daughter up and break her heart on the first day of her marriage, or I could let them think they got away with it. I chose the second option because I didn't just want a divorce, I wanted total destruction. This is the story of how a mother turned a honeymoon into a hunting trip. Before I tell you exactly what I saw on that tape, I need to connect with you. Pause the video right now, go to the comments and tell me, where are you watching this from? And tell me, if you found out your child's spouse was cheating the day after the wedding, would you tell them immediately or wait to get revenge? I'm reading every single comment. Now, let's go to the security room. The Chateau Vigne is a fortress of old stone and ivy. It has stood for 100 years. It has seen wars, floods, and thousands of weddings. It keeps secrets well. I walked across the cobblestones. The morning mist was thick, clinging to the grapevines like a shroud. It was October, and the air was sharp. I pulled my coat tighter. I remembered the night before, the toasts, the laughter, the way Richard had held Claire's hand during the cutting of the cake. My mother's instinct had whispered to me a few times over the last year, little things, moments where Richard seemed too smooth, too rehearsed, but I had silenced that voice. I wanted Claire to be happy. I arrived at the back entrance of the main building. The heavy wooden door was ajar. Henri was waiting for me in the hallway. He looked tired. He smelled of stale wine and pity. "Madeline," he said softly. "Henri," I nodded. "What is so urgent that it couldn't wait until coffee?" He didn't answer. He just gestured toward the security office. The office was small, smelling of ozone and electronics. One wall was covered in screens showing empty banquet halls and deserted gardens. Henri pointed to a chair. "Sit down." "I prefer to stand," I said. "Show me." Henri typed something into the keyboard. This was recorded last night, 11:42 p.m. The reception was winding down. Most of the older guests had left. You were saying goodbye to your cousins in the lobby. On the screen, a figure appeared. It was Richard. He was still wearing his tuxedo jacket, but his tie was undone. He was walking down the service corridor near the kitchen. He pushed open the emergency exit door and stepped out into the loading dock area, a small brick-walled patio hidden from the main gardens. It was where the staff smoked cigarettes and where the dumpsters were kept. "He's smoking?" I asked, annoyed. "He told Claire he quit." "Keep watching," Henri said. A few seconds later, another figure appeared on the screen. A woman in a long silk bridesmaid dress, sage green. I knew that dress. I had paid for it. It was Vanessa, Claire's best friend since college, the maid of honor, the woman who had given a tearful speech 3 hours earlier about how Claire and Richard were soulmates. Vanessa walked up to Richard. She didn't hesitate. She didn't keep a respectful distance. She threw her arms around his neck, and my new son-in-law, the man who had sworn before God and 300 guests to love my daughter, grabbed her waist and kissed her. It wasn't a quick, drunken peck. It was hungry. It was familiar. I watched frozen as Richard ran his hair through Vanessa's hair. I watched as they pulled apart, argued about something, and then kissed again, even more passionately. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "How long?" I whispered. "The recording lasts 4 minutes, but judging by their body language, Madeline, this isn't the first time." "No," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "They are too comfortable. They know exactly where the cameras aren't looking." I watched until the end. Richard adjusted his tie. Vanessa fixed her lipstick. They walked back inside separately, 30 seconds apart, ready to go back to the party and smile at my daughter. Henri turned off the screen. "I can delete it," Henri offered. "If you want to protect Claire, I can make it disappear." I looked at him. "Delete it?" I laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "Henri, make me 3 copies, save it to the cloud, and give me the hard drive." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to go back to my room. I'm going to shower, and then I'm going to have breakfast with the happy couple." "You aren't going to say anything?" "Not yet," I said. "Richard is a lawyer. If I confront him now, he'll spin it. He'll say he was drunk. He'll say she kissed him. He'll manipulate Claire. I need more than a 4-minute video. I need to know how deep this goes." I took the USB drive Henri handed me. It felt heavy in my pocket. I walked back to the hotel suite. Claire and Richard were staying in the bridal cottage, a separate building. I was in the main guest house. I passed their cottage. The curtains were drawn. They were sleeping. My daughter was sleeping next to a monster, and her best friend was sleeping in room 302, probably dreaming about stealing her life. I went to my room. I sat on the edge of the bed. I thought about the check I had written for the venue, the check for the florist, the check for the dress. I had financed my own daughter's humiliation. "Okay, Richard," I whispered to the empty room. "You want to play games? Let's play." I didn't sleep. I showered, did my hair, and put on my makeup. My face was a mask of perfect motherly composure. At 9 a.m., I met them for brunch on the terrace. Richard looked well-rested. He was wearing a linen shirt and sunglasses, looking every inch the wealthy, successful husband. Claire looked radiant. "Mom," she beamed, hugging me. "It was the perfect night. Thank you so much." "It was memorable," I said, kissing her cheek. I looked at Richard. "Did you sleep well, Richard?" He smiled. "Like a baby, Madeline. Best night of my life." Liar. "Where is Vanessa?" I asked casually, buttering my toast. "I haven't seen her." "Oh, she's sleeping in," Claire laughed. "She partied hard last night. She was such a great maid of honor, wasn't she? She handled everything." "She certainly did," I said. I sat there for an hour. I listened to them talk about their honeymoon. They were leaving tomorrow for 2 weeks in Italy, a trip I had paid for. "I have a little surprise," I lied. "I need to go into town to run an errand. Richard, why don't you take Claire to the spa? My treat." "You're too generous, Mom," Richard said. As soon as they left for the spa, I pulled out my phone. I called Vanessa. "Hello," she answered, her voice groggy. "Vanessa, it's Madeline. I need you to come to my suite, now." "Oh, Madeline, good morning. I'm just waking up. Can we—" "Now," I said. "It's about the wedding gift." She arrived 10 minutes later. She looked fresh, innocent. She was wearing a sundress. She brought a gift bag. "I found this left behind at the reception table," she said, handing me the bag. "I think it's from Aunt Carol." "Sit down, Vanessa." I pointed to the armchair facing the window. She sat. "Is everything okay? You look intense." "I wanted to thank you," I said, pacing the room, "for being such a good friend to Claire. You two have been inseparable since college." "She's my sister," Vanessa smiled. "I love her." "Do you?" I stopped pacing. I stood directly in front of her. "Then why were you kissing her husband behind the dumpsters last night at 11:42 p.m.? Vanessa's smile froze. It didn't fade, it just stuck there, rigid and terrifying. What?" She let out a nervous laugh. "Madeline, you must be exhausted. I don't know what you think you saw." I pulled out my tablet. I pressed play. The video was silent, but it screamed. The image of Vanessa throwing her arms around Richard, the kiss, the familiarity. Vanessa watched it. The color drained from her face. She looked like a ghost. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered, the universal lie of the guilty. "It looks like adultery," I said. "It looks like betrayal. It looks like you are sleeping with my daughter's husband." She started to cry. Not real tears, panic tears. "It was a mistake. We were drunk. I swear, it happened once." "Stop lying," I snapped. "I saw the way he held you. That wasn't a drunken mistake. That was routine." I leaned in close. "How long, Vanessa?" She looked down at her hands. "A year." "A year?" I felt the air leave my lungs. "Since the engagement?" "Before," she whispered. "We met at the engagement party planning dinner. We connected." "And you let her marry him?" I hissed. "You stood up there beside her, holding her flowers, knowing you were sleeping with him?" "He loves me," she blurted, defensive now. "He tried to call it off. He told me he felt trapped. He said the wedding had gone too far, that your family put too much pressure on him." "So he's the victim?" I asked, incredulously. "He's unhappy," she cried. "He was going to leave her after the honeymoon. He promised." I stared at her, this pathetic, selfish creature. "He promised you?" I laughed. "He just married her, Vanessa. He signed the license. He stood in front of God and everyone. Do you know why? Because he doesn't want you. He wants the life I can give him. He wants the connections. He wants the money." "You're wrong," she said. "Am I?" I picked up the tablet. "Here is what is going to happen. You are going to leave. You are going to pack your bags, check out, and drive back to the city. You will not speak to Claire. You will not text Richard." "And if I don't?" I said with a calmness. "If you don't," I said, "I will play this video on the giant screen in the lobby during brunch. I will send it to your employer. I will send it to your parents, and I will make sure every single person in this town knows exactly who you are." Vanessa stood up. She was shaking. "You can't tell Claire," she said. "It will destroy her." "You don't get to protect her anymore," I said. "Get out." She ran out of the room. I sat down. My hands were shaking. A year. They had been doing this for a year. I looked at the clock. It was 11 a.m. Richard and Claire were at the spa. I had a choice. I could storm in there and end it now. But Richard was a lawyer. He was smart. If I accused him of cheating, he would fight for assets. He would try to get alimony. He would make the divorce a living hell for Claire. I needed to be smarter. I remembered something. Richard had been very eager to merge our finances. He had been pushing Claire to open a joint investment account for their future. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a gold digger. And gold diggers make mistakes when they think they are safe. I picked up the phone and called my private banker, Mr. Sterling. "Charles," I said, "it's Madeline. I need you to freeze the transfer of the wedding gift funds." "The house down payment?" Charles asked. "But Richard just called this morning to confirm the routing number." "He did?" I said. "Yes, he wanted to know if the funds would clear before he left for Italy." "Of course he did. He wanted to secure the cash before he left." "Cancel it," I said. "And Charles, I need you to run a full credit check on Richard. Deep dive. Gambling debts, hidden loans, everything." "Madeline, is something wrong?" Charles asked. "Everything is wrong, Charles. Just find me the dirt." I hung up. I had sent the mistress away. Now I had to deal with the husband. But I wasn't going to divorce him, not yet. I was going to annul him. By the time Richard and Claire returned from the spa, looking relaxed and happy, I had already received the email from my private banker, Charles. I sat on the terrace, sipping an iced tea, reading the PDF on my phone. It was worse than I thought. Richard wasn't just a cheater. He was a financial corpse walking. Student loans, $150,000 unpaid. Credit card debt, $85,000 maxed out. Personal loan, high interest, $50,000. And the kicker, a lien on his salary from a previous law firm he had been asked to leave for mishandling client funds. He was drowning. He didn't marry Claire for love. He married her for a bailout. He was banking on the wedding gift, the $500,000 down payment for their house, to wipe his slate clean. "Mom," Claire called out, walking onto the terrace, "the massage was amazing. You really shouldn't have." "It was my pleasure," I said, putting my phone away. Richard sat down, reaching for a grape. "So, Madeline, about the house transfer, did the bank confirm the wire? I want to make sure the escrow closes while we're in Tuscany." The audacity! He was cheating on my daughter with her best friend and asking me for $500,000 in the same breath. "There was a slight delay," I lied smoothly. "International banking regulations. But don't worry, Richard, I've arranged something better." "Better?" Richard asked, his eyes lighting up. "Yes, since you are traveling, I don't want you worrying about bank transfers. I have issued a black card in your name linked to my primary account." I slid a heavy black metal credit card across the table. "This has an unlimited limit." I lied again. "Use this for the honeymoon. Hotels, dinners, shopping. Treat my daughter like a queen. When you get back, the house funds will be cleared." Richard stared at the card. He looked like a wolf staring at a lamb chop. "Wow," he breathed. "Madeline, you are incredible. Thank you." "Just one thing," I added. "I need you to sign this receipt, just for my accountant, to authorize you as a user." I handed him a piece of paper. He didn't even read it. He signed it with a flourish. He didn't know that he hadn't signed a credit card authorization. He had signed a consent to jurisdiction form, meaning if any legal disputes arose, they would be handled in my county under my terms. He pocketed the card. "I'll take good care of her, Mom, I promise." "I know you will, because if you don't, the consequences would be unfortunate." The next morning, I drove them to the airport. I hugged Claire. I held her tight. "I love you, baby. Be safe." "I will, Mom. It's just Italy." I watched them walk through security. Richard waved, the picture of a devoted husband. As soon as they disappeared, I called Charles. "Are you in the air?" I said. "Okay, Madeline," Charles said. "Do you want me to activate the card?" "Activate it for the flight," I said. "Let him buy a drink. Let him check in to the hotel. And then, I said, looking at the empty terminal, cancel it, freeze it, flag it for fraud, and freeze Claire's accounts too. I don't want him draining her savings when the panic sets in." "That's aggressive," Charles noted. "He wants to live like a billionaire? Let's see how he handles being a pauper in a foreign country." I walked back to my car. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for the call. It took 48 hours. They arrived in Florence. They checked into the Hotel Savoy. Richard used the card. It worked. He probably ordered the most expensive champagne on the menu. Then they went to dinner, a 3-star Michelin restaurant. I was sitting in my study in Napa, drinking tea, watching the clock. It was 10 p.m. in Italy. My phone rang. It was Richard. "Madeline?" His voice was tight, strained. "Hi, sorry to call so late." "Richard, is everything okay?" I asked, feigning concern. "There seems to be a glitch with the card. I'm at the restaurant and it's declining, both times." "That's strange," I said. "Did you try your own card?" I didn't bring my wallet. I thought—" He didn't bring his wallet because his cards were maxed out. "Oh dear," I said. "Well, let me call the bank." I hung up. I waited 10 minutes. I poured another cup of tea. Richard called back. "Madeline, the manager is getting impatient." "I spoke to the bank, Richard," I said. "They said the card has been flagged for suspicious activity." "Suspicious? What activity?" "Well," I said, my voice dropping an octave, becoming ice cold, "they noticed a payment for a hotel room in Florence, and they cross-referenced it with a video file uploaded to my security cloud." Silence. "What video file?" Richard whispered. "The one from the wedding night, Richard, 11:42 p.m., behind the kitchen, you, Vanessa, the dumpsters." The silence on the other end was heavy, suffocating. I saw it all, Richard, I continued. I saw you kiss her. I saw you touch her. And then I did a little digging. I know about the debt. I know about the lien on your salary. I know you married my daughter for a check. Madeline, please, he hissed, panic rising. Claire is in the bathroom. Don't tell her. I don't have to tell her, I said. You are going to tell her. What? No, I can fix this. I love her. You love my money, I corrected him, and guess what? The money is gone. The black card is canceled. The wedding transfer is blocked. You are in a foreign country with a bill you can't pay and a wife you don't deserve. You can't leave us here. I'm not leaving us there, I said. I booked a flight for Claire, one way, first class. It leaves in 3 hours. A car is waiting outside the restaurant to take her to the airport. And me? You? I laughed. You can figure it out. Maybe Vanessa can wire you some money. Oh wait, I fired her too. Madeline, this is insane. I'll sue you. On what grounds? I have the video, I have the credit report, I have the best lawyers in California ready to file for an annulment based on fraud. If you fight me, Richard, I will make that video public. I will send it to the Bar Association. You will be disbarred before you land on American soil. I heard the bathroom door open in the background. I heard Claire's voice. Honey, is everything okay? Hand the phone to my daughter, Richard. Do it now, or I post the video to Facebook. There was a shuffle. Mom? Claire asked. What's going on? Richard looks like he's going to be sick. Claire, listen to me carefully, I said, my voice softening. The car outside is for you. Get in it. Go to the airport. I will explain everything when you land. But why? Because the man you married is a fraud, baby, and I'm bringing you home. I heard Richard try to protest. I heard Claire ask a question. Then I heard the sound of a woman realizing something was terribly wrong. Mom, you're scaring me. Trust me. Run. The line went dead. I sat back in my chair. I had just blown up my daughter's life, but I had saved her future. Claire came home. She cried for 3 days straight. She didn't want to believe it. Then I showed her the video. She watched it once. She didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She just went very quiet. She was my sister, Claire whispered, staring at Vanessa on the screen. And he told me I was the only one. They are liars, Claire, I said, stroking her hair. They are parasites, and we removed them. Richard didn't return for 2 weeks. It took him that long to scrape together enough money for an economy ticket home. When he landed, he was served with annulment papers at baggage claim. He tried to fight. He tried to claim he was entitled to half the marital assets. But my lawyers were ready. We argued that the marriage was entered into under false pretenses, financial fraud and infidelity before the vows were even consummated, or shortly after. We used the debt against him. We threatened to expose his financial ruin to his current firm. He folded. He signed the papers. He walked away with nothing but his debt. Vanessa tried to reach out to Claire. She sent letters. She sent flowers. I burned them all. 6 months later, we were back at the Chateau Vien, not for a wedding, for a wine tasting. Claire was smiling. It was a real smile. She had cut her hair. She had started her own business, a bakery she had always dreamed of, funded by the money I didn't give to Richard. Henri poured us a glass of vintage Cabernet. To new beginnings, Henri toasted. To taking out the trash, I corrected, clinking my glass. Claire laughed. Mom, you're terrible. I'm a mother, I said. It's the same thing. I looked at my daughter. She was safe. She was free. And she was wiser. She would never let a man blind her again. People ask me if I regret spending $200,000 on a wedding that lasted 24 hours. I tell them, it was the best money I ever spent. It bought my daughter's freedom. It bought the truth. And the look on Richard's face when his credit card was declined, that was priceless. To every parent watching this, trust your gut. If the groom seems too perfect, check his credit score. If the maid of honor seems too close, check the security cameras. And never, ever apologize for protecting your own. Because a wedding is just a party, but a marriage is a contract, and if someone breaches that contract, you don't just sue them, you ruin them. This is Madeline, signing off from the Vineyard. If you enjoyed this story of a mother's justice, please hit the like button and subscribe to Granny Archive Stories. We have new stories of resilience and revenge coming every week. And I want to know, do you think I should have told Claire immediately, or was I right to wait until the trap was set? Let me know in the comments below. Cheers!